welcome to YTV and this week's segment of Everybody Has a Story. Today we are very excited to be joined by Ryan Matthew Chan, a Yale junior in Ezra Stiles College. Ryan is an up-and-coming filmmaker, and for the past 3 years he has devoted his time to writing, producing, and directing his first mini-feature film. It's called Acceptance, and it tells the true story of a high school student in Singapore who lies about being accepted into Harvard in order to gain the respect and acceptance of his peers. It takes us into the world of elite international schools, VIP nightclubs, and the college application process. Here's a clip from the film.
Economics for Columbia, Molly went for Harvard, and all that, that sentimentalist service stuff for UPenn. Pass my jacket. So go into that CV of yours and start to categorize based on our research. Ask yourself, what is it that I have to brag about?
I have my cooking stuff.
Your cooking? You gotta be kidding me. What, you want to get rejected right away?
Cooking is what I love.
They don't care about what you like. The only thing you should be worried about is whether they like you.
But I'm top 1% in our class.
1% of a billion is still 10 million kids. And the Ivies between the 8 of them are for 24,000 spots.
Okay, what exactly do I have to do?
What 99% of applicants don't do.
Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
So this is a really spectacular feat that you've pulled off here. For most of this, you were a full-time Yale student.
Yeah,
Is that right?
That's 100% true. I mean, it started my freshman year when me and my co-writer, Vishnu Hari, who's currently attending the University of Toronto, we decided to write this screenplay and, turn it into a film. And it was basically about 4 hours of work a day just through Skype.
Wow. And this was all filmed in Singapore, right?
Yeah, that's where both of us grew up.
What made the decision to use, I know you used first-time actors.
Yeah.
How did you work with them? Had you worked with experienced, seasoned actors before versus rookie actors like this film?
So the lead actor, Vinesh Nagrani, he's actually, he's a seasoned actor, but a lot of the other actors, they're first-time actors. And one of the reasons that we kind of chose that was because if you find people who are particularly not self-conscious, have a sort of natural character to them, you can kind of almost get stuff that's more authentic than what a trained actor can give you. And of course, like working with trained actors, you do get, better results. But I would say, at this level, when you don't have like widespread auditions, sometimes you just kind of got to go with your heart on that one.
Well, let's get to the actual meat of the film. The main character in the film is a guy named Rohan Patel, who's a senior in high school. He's applying to college, and he's worked his entire life to get into an Ivy League, and he doesn't.
Yep.
What made you decide that this was a story that you wanted to put on film?
So, I mean, first of all, it's important to point out that it is a true story. It happened among, my group of friends in high school, and I guess the actual event was pretty traumatic for the person who lied. And we realized that it kind of reflected this achievement culture, particularly coming from Asia, where a lot of kids they have this like really deep obsession about getting, into Ivy League schools, wearing the best brands. And so we felt that, it hadn't been addressed, so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make the film.
Well, shifting into that, the title has a nice duality to it, both with acceptance into top schools and acceptance by your peers. How much of this pressure that we see in the film is part of the college process, or to put the blame on international schools and the culture there?
I don't know if you can necessarily blame international schools, but I do think that a lot of kids who do attend international schools, their parents are also overachievers, and when you put them all in one place, you kind of create a very competitive environment where you're judged by how successful you are. I think in a typical American high school, you would have the jocks as the cool kids. In a lot of international schools, it's usually the smart ones who have a lot of money. I mean, that's a very frank way to put it.
Well, you bring up the parents, which reminds me of a poignant moment in the film where two characters are talking about where their parents are. And Rohan's, it's somewhere, not in Singapore. Is that the case with a lot of these schools, and do you think that has an effect on the students that their parents may not be there?
A lot of the parents are in the country, but there is a fairly large number of students whose fathers, they work overseas a lot. They're barely ever home. There are some students who are actually there, living in the country alone. The actor who plays the character Siow, Rohan's best friend in the film, in real life, he was actually living in Singapore by himself. So that one scene you're referring to is actually directly inspired by his life.
It's interesting, you don't just have a critique of college process and maybe some critique of international schools in here, but you also look at the way our generation communicates. How have you seen social media affect this culture? Because I know Rohan posts Harvard class of 2014 on Facebook, and that's how this whole lie starts.
Right. It's a great question, because that is probably one of the things that makes this generation, who's applying to college, so much more intense, because your failures and your successes are public. I mean, saying nothing on college acceptance day, people kind of infer, oh, well, he kind of got rejected from everywhere. And I distinctly remember, being a student, like at least when I got into Yale, within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of me just telling one person, the whole school knew, and that's because of social media.
Now, you have a great tagline for this movie in the trailer. It's "The best liars always tell the truth."
Right.
What do you mean by that?
So there are two taglines. One of them is "The best liars only tell the truth," and the second one is "The best liars never lie." And the main kind of thinking behind that was, one, it was actually directly inspired by something that one of us said to the guy who actually lied about getting into Harvard back in high school. But the meaning behind it in the context of the film is that if you are truly a fantastic liar, no one will, one, suspect you of lying. And the second element to it is that sometimes if you've never really lied before, or if you're not the person who seems like they would lie, you have the greatest potential to fool everybody.
Now, the film is 50 minutes long. It's a mini feature film. And that can kind of be an awkward time when you're trying to submit it to maybe festivals and into theaters. What made you choose that timeline?
Yeah, so actually that's another great question. It was largely due to budgetary constraint. The way we saw it is that we would either make the film say 50 minutes, or we would do say like a 20-minute version. But what we soon found out was that this kind of story cannot be well packaged in 20 minutes. I mean, we struggled to even fit it in 50. And our main objective was using this 50-minute film as a way to kind of present to future investors, this is what the feature film could potentially look like. Because this is something that we do want to remake, 5-10 years down the road, with a bigger budget and, with a more global reach.
Now, if Yale students want to see this movie, when and where can they go watch it?
So basically, next semester we're going to organize a Yale-wide screening on campus. The location, of course, we haven't decided yet, but one of the conditions is first, we have to have our world premiere at the film festivals, and once that happens, then we can open up to the whole Yale community.
Well, so what are the next steps here? With film festivals, are there specific ones that you're targeting that you think this will do well at?
Yeah, best way I can put it, it's just like applying to college. You got your safeties, your matches, and your reach. I think the only difference is that this is my first time ever applying for film festivals, so I don't really know where our film stands. We're kind of just sending it out to a bunch of different places along the spectrum.
What about the next steps for you? Are you already starting working on future projects?
Yep, of course, yeah. This year I'm doing my senior thesis film. It's called The Magic of 2010. We won't talk about it right now, but we always got something lined up. It's my lifeblood.
Well, the film is called Acceptance. Ryan Chan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. If you want to find out more about Acceptance, you can go and like the Facebook page online. For YTV, I'm Cody Pomeranz, and this has been another segment of Everybody Has a Story. Back to you in the studio.